Good afternoon, everyone. This is Stephanie Pavlichkova, the manager of Chinese Service Group in Deloitte, Czech Republic. Welcome and very happy to have you with us for the following 1.5-hour webinar. I will be the moderator during whole webinar. Please feel free to write your questions via chat box, and I will redirect the questions to our speakers. We do not have Q&A section, so the relevant questions will be answered and addressed in the end of each topic. Now, let's have the leadership opening, starting with Mr. Hanáček, Luděk, as the leading partner in Chinese Service Group in the Czech Republic.
Thank you, Stephanie. Good morning, dear ladies, dear gentlemen. It's really my pleasure to welcome you on our webinar or webcast, which we organize together with Association of Chinese Invested Enterprises in the Czech Republic. Thank you very much for your time that you decide to spend time today with us, and we bring actual topic for you, which we believe can help your business in the Czech Republic. And of course, as usually, as Deloitte is doing much more than topics which we will discuss today with you. If you will have any questions or you would like to discuss any topics, feel free to contact us or talk to colleagues which you know from Deloitte already, and we will be happy to talk also about other topics and questions and issues which you can solve right now during your business in the Czech Republic. So once again, thank you very much. Happy to have you on our webinar, and I believe that information which we will provide you, you will find as useful.
Thank you, Luděk. Now let's welcome Mr. Chen as the president of ACIE and the general manager of ICBC Prague branch to give us the welcoming and opening remarks. Please, Mr. Chen.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Mr. Hanáček. Thank you very much. So good afternoon, dear fellow ACIE members and distinguished guests. My name is Limiao Chen, the general manager of ICBC Prague branch and the president of ACIE. I'm very pleased to welcome all of you to this webinar. Thank you for spending time with us today. Today's webinar is co-organized by ACIE and Deloitte, aiming to support all entrepreneurs and professionals who work in private sector in Czech Republic to develop your macroeconomic view in current disrupted situation. Besides, the webinar will also provide a comprehensive analysis of Czech labor market and incentives of public sector. All topics were collected from our association members and discussed between Secretariat of ACIE and Deloitte. I hope each of you could benefit from this webinar. Last but not least, on behalf of ICBC and all members of ACIE, I would like to express my appreciation to Deloitte team and all panelists who contributed to today's event, including but not limited to Mr. Hanáček, Mr. Marek, Mr. Englund, Mr. Trubella, and Ms. Stephanie, for all your hard work and professional sharing. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chen. So now let's welcome our first speaker, Mr. Marek David, as the chief economist of Deloitte. He will be talking about current macroeconomic view. Please, David.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank for welcoming to this seminar. I would like to mention two key topics for the Czech economy just now. The first now is related to supply chains. Could you please, next slide. Czech Republic is a small open economy and is heavily relying on functioning of supply chains worldwide. In some way, Czech economy is quite similar to the Chinese one. Both economies, Chinese and Czech one, are heavily depending on manufacturing, and companies in both countries are more or less on the same position in supply chains. Both countries are located in the middle of the supply chain. So if there are any problem at the beginning or at the end of supply chain, the Czech economy is facing a problem. And the first chart at this slide is about the impact of not functioning supply chains in 2021, and you can see that the estimated impact on Czech GDP was more than 4% GDP. Actually, last year, Czech GDP rose 3.3%, but without problems in the supply chains, GDP growth could be more than 7%. And that was something that we hoped for after COVID recession, but disrupted supply chains said no. And we hope that this problem was located mainly to 2021, but we are now almost in the middle of 2022, and we can see that problems in supply chains are even worse than last year. So again, the impact on the Czech economy can be even stronger than presented on this chart. And this can be also supported, I mean, this idea, but by the second chart on this slide. And this chart is about the possible impact or exposition to problems related to the war in Ukraine. And you can see that the most exposed economies are Hungary and Czech Republic. So not only a recent problem, but also war in Ukraine is something that can be a problem and possibly a break for the growth of the Czech economy. Next slide, please. And one of these problems is related to international trade. And especially cargo trade is something that's very important for globalization, for the global economy. And as you can see at the first chart, the problems is especially in Chinese in Chinese towns, cities, because there are lots of ships waiting to load or discharge, and you can see that the red line that's for current year is significantly higher than it in previous years, and this chart is about the number of ships waiting to load or to unload. So now the capacities in international trade are limited, partly because of strict lockdowns in Chinese cities and also in other Asian economies. And this problem is then spread to the rest of the global economy because now current global value chains are very complicated, and the problem in one part is quickly spread to the rest of the world. And this cargo problems is also visible in prices of transport from China to Europe. Usually one transport from China to Europe costs around $2,000 one container, and now the price is more than 7 times higher. So the costs for transport are higher. It's a problem for companies relying on cargo transport, and it's also connected with current inflation and inflationary problems around the world. And this is related to my second topic. Next slide. And this is inflation. Rising transport prices are one of many drivers of current inflation. Usually, inflation can be described by an equation called Phillips curve. That's about three main drivers. The first one are inflationary expectations, then some kind of a demand development, and possibly supply shocks. So we can look at all of them, because now inflation is pushed up by all of them. So sometimes it's described like a perfect storm, because inflation is now supported from every corner. Next slide, please. The first topic is supply shock. On this slide, you can see charts of prices of selected commodities, and you can see that in some cases, like natural gas, the price increase is really dramatic. From values close to zero or very small values, the price of natural gas increased many times fold. So it's something that we haven't seen so far in many years. But it's not only about energy commodities like gas or oil or coal. You can see that also commodities like copper, nickel, aluminium, and many others are increasing. And it's not about those commodities I described now. We can see that the second wave of the supply shock is about agricultural commodities. Prices of barley and wheat and other commodities is twice as higher than last year. So that's something that's also feeding inflation. And usually in every CPI basket, food stuff is the most important item. So we can expect that inflation will accelerate in coming months, with connection to agriculture commodities. Next slide, please. The second important driver of inflation is about domestic demand drivers, and it's coming from two sources. The first one are savings created during COVID. Households cannot spend money usual ways because of lockdowns, and saved a lot of savings, and now after COVID, those money are flowing steadily to the economy and creating inflationary pressures. The second source of demand stimulus to inflation is coming from government. Governments all around the world tried to support economies during COVID and prepared lots of stimulus, lots of programs that pushed lots of money to the economy, and now those debts created during COVID are also creating inflationary pressures. So that was especially the story about 2021. Now we can expect that governments will try to diminish budget deficits, so fiscal stimulus will support inflation less than year before, and also high inflation will erode, will decrease the real value of our incomes and savings. So also households will likely to diminish their spending, and it can result in short and mild recession during this year in the Czech economy. So this story about demand pushed inflation was valid in 2021. It's less valid in 2022. So current inflation is more about supply shock than demand demand pressure. But there is another important inflation driver. Next slide, please. Maybe the most important factor. We started to observe that inflation expectations are increasing. Inflation expectations in the Czech economy were anchored closer to 2% long time, 10, maybe 15 years without any problem. But now our situation is changing. Inflation expectations are speeding up, and now it's even not for next year, but also long-term inflation expectations are twice as higher compared to inflation target of the Czech National Bank. And that's the problem, because to tame inflation expectations is very costly for our monetary policy, and we can observe that the Czech National Bank is significantly increased interest rates because of this problem. Maybe we can see on the last slide. You can see that inflation, that 2-week repo rate of our central bank increased from almost 0 to close to 6%, and it's not the end. We can expect that the Czech National Bank will go on raising interest rates, maybe next month to 6.5, and if it is necessary, they will go even higher to take inflation under control. If you want to link inflation with monetary policy, you can use a so-called Taylor rule. It's a rule or equation used in almost all central banks around the world, and it's about the gap between inflation or expected inflation and inflation target. It's the middle term in the equation. It's about demand behavior. It's the last term. If economy is overheating, then current output is higher than usual output of the economy, and it's about current level of inflation. So and natural real rate of interest. And if inflation and inflation expectations are increasing, central bank has to react, and interest rates have to go up. And if inflation expectations, as we see in previous slide, are increasing, also central bank must react and must increase the interest rates to stop this spiral. This situation is quite similar to the situation at the beginning of 80s in the United States, and in those times, inflation in the US economy was slightly above 10%, and the governor of Fed, Paul Volcker, raised interest rates to 20% to stop inflation to increase. I wouldn't assume that the situation would be such dramatic in the Czech Republic, but if necessary, central bank should increase interest rates even higher. But there is one big question that's about personal changes in the central bank, and we can expect 3 new members of the bank board. Bank board has 7 members, and we can expect 3 new coming in July, and it can shift maybe focus of the monetary policy of the Czech National Bank, but I wouldn't like to speculate about those personal changes. Looking at the economic models, we expect higher interest rates coming in coming months. So that's the end of my second topic. If you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them. So it's up to you.
All right, so if there is no additional questions to this economic, like macroeconomic part, Then we will continue to the next topic, which will be led by Mr. Englund Adam. He will be talking about the update on the Ukraine workforce in the Czech Republic from the immigration perspective. Adam, please.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, for this introduction. And next slide, please, if I may. My presentation is divided into 3 parts. First, I would like to start by giving a quick introduction and an overview of the legal situation in regards to Ukrainian refugees in the Czech Republic at the moment. Then I would like to speak about employing Ukrainian citizens and also about the current trends on the Czech labor market. And lastly, I would like to give a short update on the situation of Russian and Belarusian citizens living in the country. So just to provide you with a quick timeline of the latest development. So the armed conflict in Ukraine started on the 24th of February 2022, and right after that, tens of thousands of Ukrainian citizens started to migrate to the Czech Republic and other European countries, mostly in Central Europe, such as Poland, Slovakia, and Hungary. Approximately 10 days later, on the 4th of March, the Council of the European Union activated so-called temporary protection regime, which was later implemented by member countries within the European Union. In the Czech Republic, this happened on the 11th of March. And on the 21st of March 2022, the so-called temporary protection law came into force in the Czech Republic. And this was a major change when it comes to the Czech immigration system, mainly because there were 3 separate laws concerning the so-called temporary protection, and this impacted the visa status of the Ukrainian refugees, also their ability to be employed in the Czech Republic, and their health insurance status. And currently there's also another law being discussed that should relate to taxes. And these 3 laws are collectively called Lex Ukraine, and they are currently valid until March 2023. Next slide, please. So just to discuss briefly who this Lex Ukraine applies to. So it applies to refugees from Ukraine or people coming from Ukraine who are either citizens of Ukraine and their family members, or they could be stateless persons who lived in Ukraine before the war started. They could also be people from 3rd countries other than Ukraine who resided in Ukraine based on an international or national protection. And it could also be nationals of 3rd countries other than Ukraine who resided in Ukraine based on a valid permanent residence permit and who cannot return to their own country at the moment. And so this is the first condition. And the second condition must be that these people that I just mentioned should have arrived in the Czech Republic after the beginning of the war, after the 24th of February, or they could have already been here based on the visa-free regime or on a short-term visa. In other words, those Ukrainians who have already lived here in the past, before the war, they do not qualify for this temporary protection. But those people who are leaving Ukraine right now and coming in, and there's still approximately 2,000 people coming in each day, these people usually qualify for this type of protection. Next slide, please. When it comes to the motivations of the people arriving here, so those people who come here from Ukraine and who do not intend to stay here long term, they have the option to stay here based on the visa-free regime, which allows them to remain in the Schengen area for 90 days out of each 180 days, and their only obligation is to register with the foreign police within 3 days from entering the country. Then we have people who want to stay here, let's say long term. So these people should also register with the foreign police, and then they may apply for the temporary protection visas that are being issued starting from the 22nd of March. And it is usually the best to visit the Regional Assistance Center for Ukrainian refugees. They are located in each major city, and there they can receive the visas, also register with the police, and complete other tasks that are usually necessary for anyone who arrives from Ukraine. And then there are also people who received some kind of visa after the start of the war, but before the temporary protection regime was activated on the national level. And these people most likely received a so-called special visa. This was a visa specially intended for Ukrainian refugees, issued by the Czech Immigration Authority. And this visa now is equivalent to the temporary protection visa. So there shouldn't be any major difference between these two visas. But those people who would like to, for example, travel abroad, it is recommended that they exchange the special visa for the temporary protection visa, and they can simply visit an immigration office and ask for the new type of the visa, but they don't have to do so automatically. Next slide, please, Stephanie. So let's talk just very briefly about the benefits that temporary protection brings to the Ukrainian refugees. So probably the biggest benefit is free access to the labor market. In practice, this means that those Ukrainians or those refugees with the temporary protection visa may start working for any employer based in the Czech Republic immediately. They do not need to apply for a separate work permit. Health insurance, another major update is that those people who hold the temporary protection status are automatically covered by the public health insurance program, and this also applies retrospectively. So, for example, those refugees who arrive in the country, even before applying for the visa, they need to go to the hospital. So, in case they receive the visa later on, they do not need to pay for staying in the hospital. When it comes to social security, so the qualifying individuals have the option to apply for a special humanitarian benefit of 5,000 crowns at the labor office. And international travel, as I mentioned, the refugees may travel inside and outside the Schengen area, but it is recommended that they obtain this newest type of temporary protection visa first. We also mentioned people who do not qualify for the temporary protection. These could be people who resided, who are Ukrainians and resided in the Czech Republic before the war started, and also people who are Ukrainian by origin, but they already reside in another EU country. So these people do not qualify for a temporary protection visa, and instead they have the option to apply for a regular leave to remain visa, which allows them to reside in the Czech Republic legally. But they do not have free access to the Czech labor market, so it's not possible to employ these people right away. Next slide, please. And now let's move on to the current statistics when it comes to Ukrainians and especially Ukrainian refugees currently living in the country. So as of 2 days ago and as of today, it is actually almost 340,000 visas that have been issued by the Czech Immigration Authority to the Ukrainian refugees. The greatest number of these people resides in Prague, and approximately 36,000 of the temporary protection holders have already found a job, mostly in Prague, Central Bohemian, South Moravian, and Pilsen regions. Approximately 75% of the working temporary protection holders are women, and more than 80% of temporary protection holders work in the most common positions. So they are assembly workers, construction assistants, drivers, operators. and so on. In the Czech Republic, we have this CZ-ISCO system, and it has 9 categories. So these people, they mostly work in the 8th and the 9th category, so the lowest qualification categories. When it comes to people that have registered as people looking for a job at the labor office, so approximately 1/3 of them are elementary school graduates. Then we have 22% of people who completed some kind of high school, and then 1/4 of them are university graduates. So you can see this disproportion that we have quite a lot of university graduates coming here, but still most people, they are looking for unqualified jobs. And it is often said that there's a lot of women and children coming here, and that is of course true. And of course these refugees have limited ability to work as opposed to men in productive age, but still there is approximately 53,000 men under temporary protection residing in the country at the moment. And as a last thing, I will just like to mention that employers have the obligation to notify the labor office each time they employ a temporary protection holder. Next slide, please. And when it comes to the current trends on the Czech labor market and the Ukrainian refugees, so these are more like some best practices that I would like to highlight. So, for example, those employers who would like to employ Ukrainian refugees can contact the local branch of the labor office and request a pre-selection of suitable candidates, because most of the labor offices, they have this kind of evidence of people who would like to work in the Czech Republic and who could be Ukrainian refugees. Then there's also these so-called labor exchanges. In Czech, it's called Burza práce. They sometimes take place in major cities, and this is a good opportunity for employers to attract new workers and to seek for talents among Ukrainian refugees. Then last month, the European Commission published a recommendation on the recognition of academic and professional qualification for people fleeing the war in Ukraine. And based on the available information that we currently have, the Czech Republic is not planning to go through with this recommendation. In practice, this means that those Ukrainians who are qualified, who could be either doctors, but also as well, you know, like welders or electricians or barbers, they still need some kind of Czech qualification in order to be able to work here, which also results in what I mentioned earlier, that they have to take unqualified jobs in many cases. When it comes to other obstacles for these temporary protection holders, there's of course the language barrier, as many of the jobs in the Czech Republic require at least some degree of knowledge of the Czech language. The recognition of qualification that I mentioned, also the lack of part-time positions, which is a long-standing issue on the Czech labor market, and also quite a lot of Ukrainian refugees actually plan to return to Ukraine in the near future, so they are only looking for a short-time position. And one last thing that I would like to mention is that there are ongoing discussions on expanding the so-called Qualified Employee Migration Program, which is a governmental program intended for third country foreigners looking for a job in the Czech Republic. And there used to be a relatively high number of people coming here from Ukraine based on this program. And of course, this program is not running at the moment. So there are talks about bringing new countries to the program, or even expanding the limits in those other countries, especially in Central Asia and India. Next slide, please. And just a very quick update on the situation of Russians and Belarusians living in the Czech Republic at the moment, and those who would like to live here. So Russian and Belarusian citizens cannot apply for visas or residence permits at any Czech embassy in the world. The Czech consulates in St. Petersburg and Yekaterinburg have been closed, and it's not possible to submit any kind of application there. And the only functioning embassy in Russia is in Moscow, and also the embassy in Minsk. They both function, but only in a very limited way. Those applications that have been under review but not processed yet. They are slowly being terminated by the immigration authority based on the sanctions imposed by the government. And an exception has been made for those foreigners whose application has been already approved. They already received their entry visas, but they haven't been able to travel to the country yet. So these people now have the option to travel here and to finish the process. But otherwise, all other Russian and Belarusian citizens are out of luck right now. And while this measure is currently valid until the end of May, the Czech government is currently discussing or intending to extend this measure until next spring. So currently it seems that Russian and Belarusian citizens will have a very hard time finding a job and moving to the Czech Republic. That was the last slide of my presentation. My name is Adam Englund. Here you can also see contact of my colleague Eva Drhlíková, who's the manager of the Czech immigration practice, in case you would like to ask any questions in regard to Ukrainians or even Russians and Belarusians. We would be happy to answer those questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adam. Now we have the last speaker, Mr. Trubella Daniel. He will be talking about the cash grants and tax relief for the entrepreneurs, selected opportunities from 2022. Please, Daniel.
Thank you, Stephanie. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Daniel Trubella, and I am a member of Deloitte Grants and Incentives team here in Czech Republic, and our agenda is to provide complex advisory regarding to public aid. Public aid, it is not just cash grants, which is my main topic today, but it is also about some kinds of indirect form of support, such as R&D tax deduction or investment incentives, and this kind of support is in the form of tax relief, and I will get back to these instruments later. So, in general, investments to the new technologies, research and development, or HR could bring significant competitive advantages to the company, especially with public support, because you can use saved money for other activities in company, reduce costs, and accelerate your innovative cycle or the whole business. For the companies in the Czech Republic, will be in the period of next, let's say, 6 or 7 years, available a record amount of public money from European structural funds or national funds, and this support is intended for private sector and its businesses. This I could say historically the highest amount of support is more than 40 billion euros. Maybe you can ask, why is it happening right now? There are 3 main reasons. The first of them is the start of the new programming period of funds from European Union. The second one is recovery effort from COVID-19 pandemic, and the third one is related to green transition in the name of Green Deal initiative, which has the main goal to make Europe first carbon neutral continent till the year of 2050. Expect traditional European structural funds, which are available for the companies in Czech Republic since 2004, when Czech Republic joined the European Union. There are completely new funds, such as European Recovery and Resilience Facility with more than 7 billion euros. and these fund aim to the restart of the Czech economy after pandemic, as I mentioned. And the second one is modernization fund with approximately 8 billion euros for green decarbonization projects related to the Green Deal. And the last one is just transition fund with the budget over 1.6 billion euros. And this fund is available for coal regions in the Czech Republic, namely regions of Ústí nad Labem, Karlovy Vary, and Moravskoslezský region. And this fund's aim is to help these regions stop or reduce mining of the black or brown coal, and focus on the different industries or services which will be more environmentally friendly. Next slide, please. Yeah, on this slide I prepared. Yeah, that's one. On this slide, I prepare for you current cash grant opportunities, and these opportunities are able right now, or will be able during this year 2022. Now I will go through these opportunities and describe more what is the focus of these programs, and key conditions like amount of the grant and time schedule. The first package of these opportunities is related to recovery and resilience facility. There are a few programs. The current one is about installation of photovoltaic systems. It could be with or without battery accumulation system. As you can see on the last column, you can prepare your application and apply that till the end of the June, and the amount of the grant could be about 35% of the budget of the project. The second one is about circular economy, and this program support purchasing of new technologies, new production or recyclation lines, which could obtain secondary materials or product some kind of new products from this secondary raw materials. And we can expect this program in the second half of year 2022. The next program is about sustainable mobility, and get back, please, Stephanie. And this program aimed to purchasing of electro vehicles or vehicles which run on hydrogen, and it is also support a construction of charging and filling stations. As you can see, the amount of support could be 40 or 60%. The amount of support depends on the size of the company, which means that small and medium enterprises get 40 or 50 or 60%, and the large companies 40% support. The next program support all measurements which could lead to water savings in businesses. The next one, heat supply systems. This is not maybe relevant for you, because This support aimed to heat plants in the Czech Republic, so maybe I can skip it. The more interesting is digital enterprise. This program helps companies in Czech Republic with automation and digitalization. In this program, enterprises could purchase new ICT products such as hardware or software, which could help the company in the production process or expansion of capacity or the product range. So all of these programs were from Recovery and Resilience Facility, and the second big program is called Operational Program Technology and Application for Competitiveness. This program is from European structural funds. So as you can see in the fourth column, project which will be supported from this program has to be in the Czech Republic, but outside of Prague, because all project which have some support from European structural funds could not be in Prague. There are three programs. The first of one is about energy savings, and it is support also all measurements which will lead to reducing energy consumption in the company, or increasing energy efficiency, or it's improving. There is amount of support 30 to 50%. It depends also on the size of the company, and we could be prepared for this call on the 7th month of 2022. The second program calls application, and this program will support all operative expenditures for corporate R&D. Namely, it could be wages of R&D employees, material for prototypes which will be testing, and so on. In this program there is support 22 to 70%. Also depends on the size of the company. The next program is called innovation, and this program will help companies to purchase new manufacturing technologies, such as machinery, new manufacturing lines, and so on. And on this new purchased technologies, company has to introduce into production, and after that on the market new innovative product or products. And the amount of support is 20 to 60%. The last program on this slide is from Technological Agency of the Czech Republic, and it's called Trend. It is very similar to program application. It supports the same activities, and the main different condition is that this program is also for companies or for project based in Prague, not Czech Republic, but outside of Prague as the previous program. And this program is also open for applications till the 16th of June 2022. Next slide, please. Yeah, so that were the programs that that are currently available or will be available during this year. On this slide and the next slide, I prepared an overview of opportunities which will be available during the whole period 2022 to 2027. Back please. Yeah, I have talked about R&D, about the support of operational expenditures. It is not only about cash grants. As I mentioned at the beginning, there is also an instrument of R&D tax deduction, which is indirect form of support, and it works like that. If company has expenditures on R&D, it could reduce tax base for of these expenditures and pay the less on taxes in the Czech Republic. Companies in the field of R&D also could obtain support for capital expenditures. It is for established or development of centers for industrial research and development. It could be also some kind of testing laboratories or prototype workshops and etc. This support or amount of the grant could be 20 to 60%, and it is also from operational program technologies and application for competitiveness. There is also another instrument. It calls investment incentives, and again it is indirect form of support, like R&D tax deduction in the form of tax relief, which company could utilize in period maximum 10 years. Yeah, I've talked about digital enterprise and sustainable mobility. These activities will be also supported in the next few years. So maybe we can skip it. It could be financed from various grant providers, as you can see on the last in the last column. And we have talked about it on the slide before. Next slide, please. Yeah, on this slide, there is a huge package of programs leading to energy and environment. And I believe that I've talked about all of these programs, and also these programs will be again open in the next years, and it depends on your time schedule and your planning of your projects, which grant provider will have opened the call for applications, and also the amount of the grant will be depends on the size of the company and the grant provider and key conditions of the specific calls. The next field of support could be 3D production, and as I mentioned, capital expenditures to new manufacturing technologies or production technologies could be from the operational program from the previous operation program, technologies and application for competitiveness. And these activities could be also supported from investment incentives, as I mentioned before. And the aim of this program or of this support is the same: purchasing technology which can produce the new innovative product or products. And the last field is about HR and developing of your HR capacities, such as employee training and etc. And this is maybe the last interesting topic which could be supported from various instruments of public aid. So this is very briefly about current cash grant or tax relief instruments for companies in Czech Republic. And I will be happy to answer your questions if there will be some. And if you are thinking about your projects or plans and you would like to discuss if there is some kind of possibility to support them from public money, please don't hesitate to contact me. We can prepare for you some kind of analysis, which instruments or which funds, which program will be the best for your project. And after that, we are prepared to help you with the application and the whole process of the cash grant lifetime cycle, or tax relief, or R&D tax deduction. Thank you very much for your attention, and that's all from my side.
Thank you, Daniel. Before I redirecting the questions regarding the Russian visa, I would like to encourage all the participants, if you still have any questions in terms of the immigration, what Adam was addressing before, or any questions about the grants and incentive to Daniel, please feel free to write the questions via the chat box. The questions will be only sent to the organizer, which will not be shared by other participants. And then we will redirect the questions to the relevant speaker. Now we've received one question about the visa issue. So here is the questions that if current employee who is Russian citizen who already hold employee card, will it obstacles, or if there will be any obstacles for the Russian employee to renew their work visa and residence in case they will need to do it in the near future? So this is the question probably for Adam. And maybe Adam, you would like to address it briefly, please?
Thank you. And this is actually a very good question. So those Russians who already hold a valid residence permit or a visa issued by the Czech Republic, and they are already located in the country, they can apply for an extension without a problem. So these sanctions that I mentioned, they only apply to those Russians and Belarusians who do not live in the Czech Republic yet.
Thank you. And do we have more questions coming?
So Stephanie, I just sent 3 questions. I don't know whether you have already received it.
Yes, Mr. Chen, we've reviewed your questions, but this is actually the questions, more to probably David or to other, let's say, relevant expert.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm afraid that we will not address it right away, but in case you are interested, we can arrange a separate call or just to give you more information on the questions. Is it okay?
Okay, never mind. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so if there's no further questions coming, we would like to thank you on behalf of Deloitte and the ACIE for your precious time to join us. Enjoy the great afternoon, and we hope those topics and introductions were helpful for you. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.